What?
We're live. I already had it pre-set up, and
Yeah.
it's got this little drop-down thing where instead of retyping it in, if you're doing it from OBS, you can just hit existing stream, and I already had it in there. I was like, oh my god, thank you.
There you go.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So,
Legend's been working on his
live.
computer for like the last 20 minutes,
Sorry,
trying to get the
everybody.
audio working and stuff.
This has
You know,
been a
big,
it's been
big,
a mess.
big number 10 here, and starting late, and it's a long, super big twab. Short novel, as DMG said, but man, Legend decided that this would be a good time to mess with this computer. I don't know what he's thinking.
And we're better for it.
I mean, you say that now.
I do.
Let the people decide. Anyways, I'm Batsam.
I'm Xcalion, and this is the Speaker Podcast, episode 10.
Yeah, it's been a whole 10 weeks. Like, that's insane.
I can't. Yeah, like he said, DMG said it's like it's basically a leather-bound miniature book, almost 9,000 words. There is some hardy stuff in here, some controversial stuff in here. If you've paid attention to my channel, you've already seen my video on the big thing that happened. I'll say it when we get to it, but
Right.
it's a good TWAB overall. I'm actually very pleased with most of it, and
Yeah.
some of the changes that are coming next season. Next season's going to be a big season. I've seen a lot of negative takes online on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm very active on Twitter, guys. Go check me out. Xcalion, and I've seen some people that are really upset about what's coming, and I find that crazy because this looks like they're going to do some things. Like, first off, a big one for me is bringing fusion rifles down. Something that they're doing, but they're also, I guess it looks like they're also doing the same for shotguns. We're getting an entirely new weapon stat, which is awesome. And the way that the game works with flinch and stuff like that. Your resilience is now going to affect your flinch. Your weapon stability is now going to affect your flinch. These are all really good things, I think.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say as well, with changing any kind of stat, with adding or micromanaging these small things, with a game like Destiny that has pretty basic combat system to the surface level, and then same with PvP, pretty basic. Anytime you make like these micromanaging, adjusting things, like for the upper tier echelon people that are super invested, like ourselves, who take all this stuff very seriously, anytime you change something like so it was a small thing and now it's its own thing, you're gonna get backlash on it. You're gonna see some things come out of the woodwork on it, because now that small niche thing that made you like a top PvP player is now being put into the spotlight, and it's being reworked so it's more balanced and more fair for someone who's never played the game or is just walking into the game and gets blown away by somebody who's sitting in their XLR gaming chair with their gamer glove and glasses and get on my level, nerd, like 3 PC monitor. No judgment to those people who are out there. But the people that pay attention and read the TWABs and understand like how to weapon craft and how to build your armor up properly, that's the kind of people this affects where they're at now. And you're going to have to pay more attention to that kind of stuff. You're going to have to build more into it. You have to commit more resources to a specific thing if you want to do that. It's not just a gimme anymore. And I think that may be why they're getting a lot of hate on this. And honestly, this is a great thing. You can commit to a certain kind of build now. And there's a lot of good changes that are coming out of this. And by all means, we're not here to play judge on the end all be all. We all have our own opinions.
Yes.
I looked at this over. I thought it was great. There are some changes that is a bit confusing, but it makes sense, especially with the way Destiny's been going, with future-proofing and just getting ready for that next big step that it's going to take. These changes are necessary.
Yeah.
And again, it just feels bad because it feels weird because right now you're standing in a little kiddie pool that maybe goes up to your waist, and you're making micro changes before jumping into the deep end. So
100%, and it's I, as I said in my video the other day, I totally understand the frustrations coming from, some hunter mains. It feels like they just kind of got picked out, and they're kind of getting
Yeah.
picked on, and I do get that. But for the most part, things are gonna be fine, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not gonna say like learn to code or something, like learn to use something else, learn to do something new. You know what I've been
Mm-hmm.
running in PvP all week, even before they announced this?
Hmm.
Aeon Swifts
Yeah.
in PvP.
Right.
No one here. Pro gamer tip for you: Aeon Swifts with Secta Force inside of PvP. Okay, you know what Rapid Hit does, right, Sam?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what Secta Force does?
Isn't that the one where it, like buffs your team?
No, Secta Force,
No.
rapid precision hits for a short
Yeah.
duration increase reload speed and
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
handling
That's
and
just
handling and draw speed.
so that just basically gives you
Yeah,
2 free perks. Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like that might get attention called to it.
No, maybe
So you know what? And actually, no. After saying that out loud, probably not. And the reason why is it's readily available in all classes.
everything. Everybody can use it. Hunters,
Exactly.
Titans, Warlocks. Yeah,
I think that's
Warlocks
probably
already
why
have
that won't get
affiliations,
touched.
so
Right.
whatever. But yeah. Very cool. I dig it. You compare it with a weapon that has rapid hit to basically get
Hmm.
like just
Insta
a god tier
reloads.
weapon. What I've been pairing it with is Crimson, because Crimson has terrible draw speed and handling. so
Yeah. Yeah.
so
We gotta make
this
up for it somewhere.
dude, it's great.
Yeah.
Anyways, all of that to say, I'm using something new, and I was doing that before this. It's gonna be fine, it is, and that's not to say. I said in my video that it seems excessive, and it does seem excessive. A minus, I'll mention my opinion about it after we actually talk about it.
Yeah. Okay,
So
that's fun.
let's just dive into this, since we've got a long ways to go and a short time to get there.
Hmm.
This week at Bungie, 421 2022. Let me get my
Crack the old
larynx
larynx
ready.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get yourself some water.
No. Bamboo and cola.
Oh, there you go.
This week at Bungie, we seem to have written a short novel about upcoming weapons sandbox changes. Hello, dear reader. I'd like to kick this twab off with a quick word of advice. Never end your drafting phase with your introduction. I'm going to be brief with you guys real quick. I'm going to skip most of this stuff because there is a ton of stuff to get to.
Yep. So not only is there a lot of extra, like the nitty gritty, there's a lot of fluff.
Yes.
And I say fluff in like the nicest way possible. It's like, oh, meet my good friend so and so. He's gonna talk about this, and like, welcome to the team. Da, 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 da. We strive for this. And by all means, if you're interested in reading this, we're planning on posting this TWAB in the Discord, just because of how much we're gonna have to like kind of skim over. You're gonna hear us talk a little bit about like, oh, there's these buffs and these nerfs, and there's a lot of numbers involved. We're just gonna like, this got a buff, this got a nerf. Just there's so much here to cover. If you're very interested in reading it, please jump on, read it. But yeah, that's probably what we're just gonna end up doing here.
Yeah.
But take it away.
So I'll mention here kind of the game plan that they're doing. They want to introduce levers to tune how players build for airborne gunplay, allow players to mitigate for flinch, reduce the number of one-hit kills in PvP, address common feedback on weapons across all game modes. Okay, these are the hot topics, and this is pretty much what they cover. One thing, this first spot here is just talking about glaives. They're buffing glaives again for the most part, and that's great. Basically the like the projectiles are going to move faster depending on the range stat.
Right.
The way the melee affects, because it's an uncharged melee, so they want to make sure it works well with like swashbuckler.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the shtick they're taking away from this is that it's being considered and looked at as your physical melee. If you were to punch somebody with your normal melee, that is how they're treating the glaive swing. It's less powerful than a sword because swords require ammo. And that way it should proc with certain perks that require ammo for the gun. So you're not going to see it proc with Rampage. You're not going to see it proc with Rapid Hit. You're not going to see it proc with Surrounded. These things are all meant to be for the gun portion of it. However, they do want it to proc with Swashbuckler. They do want it to proc with other perks. So they're making those changes and adjustments here more visible. It's like, hey,
Yes.
we see this as a problem. We're changing this. We're upgrading how fast the gun shoots. The exotic glaives are getting more powerful.
Yes.
And the melee's being fixed. So glaives are going to get a huge buff in the next meta, and they're going to be affected by exotics. They're supposed to work with Ophidian aspects to give you extra range. Worm God's Caress for that extra strength. These things will proc with anything that gives you normal power-ups for uncharged melees.
And
which is exciting.
Real quick, I will cover the exotic glaive changes because they are getting they're getting changes and they're good. Right now, they're not good. Like, you have no reason to use them. Edge of Action for Titans. Players now gain Avoid Overshield while inside the bubble. Helm of Saint 14 now applies to this bubble as it does for Ward of Dawn. That's awesome.
Mini bubbles all over the field.
For sure. Edge of Intent, Warlock Glaive, increased speed and acceleration of the healing turret projectiles. I haven't even seen that one be used yet, so I'm unsure of what it looked like beforehand, but I'm sure
it was terrible. Boots of the Assembler did the same job and better. Right. Lumina is one of my more favorite exotic hand cannons. It was worse than Lumina.
I bet it's about to be one of your favorites. More so.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that thing.
Oh, yeah.
180? Oh, gosh, it was so good.
It's not a 180, but Edge of Concurrence, Hunter Glaive. Triple the damage of the wave detonation, increase the number of enemies it can change from 4 to 8. That's pretty huge. So
actually useful.
Actually useful, yes.
Because did you see how big the wave was back in the day? It was like tiny. You could, unless they all lined up in front of you, you weren't hitting them.
It's like you may as well be using a wave frame grenade launcher instead, but this actually makes it quite useful. And the chaining is great. Makes it more like, like a wave frame grenade launcher with Trinity Ghoul. Like, that's going to be pretty epic.
Yeah, like it could have ran with like not Genesis, but Chain Reaction or something that like caused more of a explosion. But yeah, so those things are nice to see because when you throw out big bad boy exotics, like, oh, these are the new things, like it's the new hotness. Like, you want to see something good come out of it, and nobody had anything good to say about these glaives. It's quite the grind to get them, and they just weren't good. So it's nice to see they're giving some attention to that. This is the second buff, by the way, that they've gotten.
Yeah,
they got a pretty low key one.
Yeah,
like they adjusted the ammo and everything.
Pretty
but
insignificant.
This is a nice way of changing that
for sure. So here's the first big thing on the docket: flinch. Aim deflection on receiving damage, typically called flinch, is a common pain point, particularly on primary ammo weapons. We've rebuilt the stability weapon stat to grant flinch resistance in addition to its other effect, with a maximum flinch resistance of 10% to 25% dependent on a weapon archetype. With this change, players can build for flinch resistance more easily on weapons that feel flinch more than others, and less so on special weapons, which we don't want to be easier to use when under fire. All of that good stuff. From internal playtest, you may not feel the difference when using just one source of flinch resistance, but when stacked 2 or more sources, the benefit is strong. Note that higher zoom weapons are more affected by flinch, which we took into account when tuning these numbers. Here's the breakdown of flinch resistance with 100 stability. 25% on auto rifles, submachine guns, and bows. 20% on pulse rifles, scouts, sidearms, and machine guns. 15% on hand cannons and trace rifles, 10% on fusion rifles, shotguns, snipers, grenade launchers, both breach and drum, linear fusions, both special and heavy, and rocket launchers. Note that a stability stat of below 20 will technically have a small flinch resistance penalty, but only around 5 weapons have that stability stat in that range. Mentioning here, because it's related change, the resilience character stat now grants flinch resistance of 0% at 0 and 10% at 100. You now have a reason to run 100 resilience. Like, before,
not just Titans anymore.
No, not just Titans. And before, it had a moderate effect, and it still has that effect, right? Like, mind you, it still has that same effect. But before, it didn't really do you any good to run anything over a 5 resilience, and now you can actually build into that.
Well, no, they also made that change earlier at the beginning of Witch Queen, where Titan bubbles could be blown up. and the duration of how long they lasted was based on your resilience.
That's right. I forgot
And
about
then Warlocks with our wells. Whenever we planted the sword had a health bar now,
that. Right.
and it was based out of your resilience, which was just so dumb. But this now gives more reason to build into these stats. Like instead of just dropping 100 into intellect, which I'm not gonna get into all this because I have feelings about how to build.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, this is a good stat. This is a nice stat for especially new light players who don't know what they're doing. This is going to provide you with a nice buff, as well as enhance a few supers. So, I do feel like having flinch be something that's a part of your kit is nice,
For sure.
especially considering like we have a chess piece mod that specifically reduces flinch when you're sighted up with specific weapons, and having that as a stat that you can build into a bit better is very nice.
Yes. And I think it'll make those mods a little bit more useful too. Like you'll notice the difference more now. Mentioning it here because it's a related change. Yeah, wait, we already. Okay, yeah. Examples. Note that the sources of flinch resistance stack multiplicatively. At 100 stability stat, Suro's Pulse Rifle with Suro Synergy active, 10 resilience, no distractions, and 2 unflinching Pulse Rifle armor mods, while buffed by Rally Barricade, 0.8 times 0.8 times 0.9 times 0.65 times 0.7 times 0.5 equals 0.1x, i.e. 90% flinch resistance.
Okay, so basically all those fancy words that Ledge just said is foreign language to Destiny, because in the past, buffs did not stack.
No.
If you received a buff, it was the maximum amount of whatever it was. So if you stepped into a well and then stepped into a bubble, like a Titan bubble, you got the bubble, because the bubble gave you better stats. The well was continuous and healed you, but the bubble gave you weapons of light and it was more powerful.
Yeah.
So you only received the one. This allows you to stack things, which is so much nicer. And I think the reason they're doing it is because it's not as overpowered as you might think it is.
Yeah, this is a first. This is the first
Yeah.
time they've ever let us do something like this.
This isn't doing damage.
Right.
That's why.
Well, yeah.
And I think that's why it's allowed to stack. You're just not flinching when you shoot, and that was a best case scenario. Pop everything you have, and bang, you have some ridiculous amount of aim resist. Flinch resist, and that's wonderful. And the fact that it can stack with that is really cool, because now you get to see a lot of content creators that do build crafting come out of the woodwork, like, how do you not move? How to be a stone pillar and shoot everything? Like,
Right.
we're gonna see some really fun builds come out of this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. It mentions a hand cannon too, a 70 stability hand cannon with 5 resilience and 1 infliction hand cannon armor mod is 0.91 times 0.95 times 0.7 equals 0.61, i.e. 39% flinch resistance. And you might think that's a little low considering that's a primary weapon, but it's a hand cannon. It's the best peak shooting weapon in the game, because they're low zoom. If you compare this to something like a scout rifle, the reason scout rifles have a 20%, or even an auto rifle at 25,
right.
it's because you don't really peak with those. You can't because they zoom so much. So this is good. I like this. Being a PvP guy, I really like that you can build into this.
Yeah. These are the balance changes that they promised.
Yes.
With doubling their team, like, these are the small things that are going to make a huge difference down the pipeline. Get these small things out of the way so people can be excited about the big changes. This is a huge change in and of itself, but people aren't excited about it because it's small, it's insignificant, and it doesn't affect me right now. It's not cool to loot. But this is a huge thing.
Yeah.
This is very early on.
Yeah, we still have a lot to go. With one of my favorite things up ahead, but right now we're going to jump into airborne gunplay, and this is huge. Before getting to build crafting, we've made a fundamental change to the modifiers applied while airborne. Your primary weapons will have less randomness and projectile accuracy. In most cases, you'll have less aim assist instead, and will need precision aiming to land your shots without building heavily into airborne. We've added a new weapon stat, Airborne Effectiveness, which is present on all weapons except those where being airborne doesn't have an effect, swords for example, which maps into the aspects of airborne gunplay using these guidelines. With little to no investment, 0 to 30 airborne stat, a character will have a smaller accuracy penalty than retail, but will have significantly lower aim assist. With minimal 31 to 50 airborne stat, a character will have around the same in-air accuracy as an Icarus-equipped weapon does currently, but with noticeably lower aim assist. With substantial investment, 51 to 70, the character will have a better accuracy than retail weapons with Icarus, with fewer misses due to randomness, but with reduced aim assist. If you can kind of see the where we're going here, less aim assist while you're in the air, but make it easier to aim. With specialized investment, 71 to 99 airborne stat, a character will have no airborne accuracy penalty with very slightly less aim assist. And with the full 100 airborne stat, a character will have no airborne accuracy penalty, the same as the last one, but with the same aim assist. So, if you have a weapon that has 100, basically 100 airborne effectiveness stat, it will basically be what it is right now, right? It's going to have the same kind of stickiness in air right now, for the most part. And they're building exotic armor and weapons and, changing up some of the other stuff to kind of make this a little bit accommodating. Yeah, like certain weapons are going to feel different. This stat has been hand-tuned on all exotic weapons. Everything that's shipped in Season 16 or 17 and everything that's ever shipped as Trials of Osiris or Nightfall loot, older legendary weapons have a default value set per weapon archetype to have a value just below the middle of the allowed stat range. Note, this will be a hidden stat in Season 17 launch, similar to the aim assist and recoil direction. You'll be able to check the stat on specific weapons through the API, and in Season 18, several previously hidden stats will be visible on the weapon inspection screen. So that's a big change coming. We'll be able to see some of our hidden stats.
And I feel like this is just the first of many things that are going to come out in the next couple seasons. I really feel like we're going to see a lot more, and these are just this is the few things that we're sprinkling in right now. They're letting us know, hey, these changes are being made because this season's nearly over. We're almost done.
Well, this is the first season here, Season 16, where we're in right now, that they've ever shown us weapon stats numbers with our weapons. I'm looking,
which is really nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at a Cartesian right now, and it's the impact is a little over halfway up. So that doesn't tell me anything. Right beside it, it now says 55. Before Season 16, you couldn't see that. You had to open up an ad for that.
Right. And this really plays into what we talked about recently, where this is more of an RPG style.
Yes.
We're beginning to see Destiny really pick its identity here, and we're starting to get more elements that support that. I think this is good, because we're talking a couple seasons ago, back in the day when Sacred Dawn Warlocks that would float in the air, consume their grenade with heat rises, and then one-shot you from across the map with sniper rifles because they could do that. That was a built-in thing. It was really effective, and I feel like they took that into account. That was a playstyle that only one class on one subclass could actually take advantage of. Now, you can't really just hold in the middle of the midair as a hunter, but your running and gunning when you hop into the air to shoot somebody over a corner is now, you can predict a bit more of that. You're not just immediately screwed a second your feet leave the ground. There's no more randomness. You can now stat these things, and that's important.
That is important.
Being able to customize every avenue that you have makes you a more competent fighter when it comes to literally everything. Not so much PvE, because you don't really need those last minute shots, but for PvP, every second counts. Every bullet counts.
And again, this plays more towards aiming rather than luck, right? Because aim assist is a huge thing. I've seen it, man. I was playing comp pretty much all day today. Played a little bit of Trials with Nick and a friend online, and man, I was hitting some crazy snipes, some really crazy snipes. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that next season, just being honest with you.
Right.
So right here, this stat influences several aspects of airborne gunplay. Aim assist cone penalty angles. A high penalty to this angle at 0 stat and at a low or 0 penalty at 100 stat. Accuracy cone penalty angle for primary weapons. A lower penalty than currently at 0 stat. 0 penalty at 60 to 100 stat. Accuracy cone penalty on special weapons. A slightly lower penalty than currently at 0 stat. 0 penalty at 100 stat. Headshot aim assistance. 0 at 0 stat. 1 degree at 100 stat on primary weapons. Slugs, shotguns, linear fusion rifles, and machine guns. 0.5 degrees on sniper rifles. This controls how forgiving headshots are while airborne. If this is 0, you must be pinpoint aiming precisely on the head to get the headshot. Otherwise, you'll get a body shot even if your aim assist cone overlaps the head. Previously, while airborne, players would get full aim assistance for headshots provided by their aim assist cone overlapped the cone overlapped the head at all, basically, which is insane to think about.
What you're going to hear a lot more now if you randomly play PvP and someone headshots you while they're in the air and you end up killing them is you're going to get a lot more hate mail because they obviously don't know what they're doing. This is just opening up the floodgates for that. So if you're somebody who doesn't enjoy hate mail, go ahead and just turn that setting off where you can't get messages from anybody. But for someone like myself who lives for that,
bask in it.
Oh my gosh, it's like, oh, your salt feeds me. It sustains me. Bring it. Now, that happens very rarely anymore in Destiny because I'm not that good at PvP as I used to be. But it used to happen a lot in other games where I'd get like a lot of hate mail when I played comp and rank.
Oh, pellet shotgun spread angle, plus 25% at 0 stat, 0 at 100 stat. More shotgun spread at low airborne effectiveness stat. So it just means a lower airborne stat just means, like it said, it's not going to be as tight.
Yeah, so you're not going to get Fellwintered by a hunter running around the corner that's invisible.
I don't want to talk about Fellwinters. Fellwinters are already nerfed into the ground.
Good. Listen, it's so discouraging to walk into Crucible at the beginning of this season and everybody's invisible. It's like, why? Why can't I see anybody on the map? And I'm glad they addressed that. I would have loved to have seen like something of one of our suggestions pop up where it's like, oh, you might go invisible, but you're now eternally stuck on the radar. Like, that makes it a bit easier. Or like you leave a footprint behind every couple of steps. I don't know. Something that doesn't make me feel bad for getting blasted by literally everybody who's invisible.
Right. What all of this means overall is that you'll get fewer misses due to randomness from the accuracy cone while airborne, but reliance on aiming is much higher at low stat. To make this easier, you will need to build into airborne. With decent aim, you will land more body shots instead of crits. Before and after examples of accuracy cone penalty. Hand cannons, before, 0.667 degrees airborne accuracy penalty. After, 0 stat, 0.450 degrees. After 60 stat, 0 degrees. So 60 and above, it'll be better than they are now, pretty much. Snipers, before 3 degrees. After 0 stat is 2 degrees, 60 stat is 0.8 degrees, and 100 stat is 0 degrees. So that's a huge one.
So, go ahead, continue.
I was going to say
I have something after that.
That seems to me like a buff overall.
Yeah. So my thing on this is a little bit further in the swap, and I'll mention it when we get to there as well. They're removing quite a bit of stuff from the loot pool as the seasons continue, and I'm wondering if those weapons are being replaced or they're getting reworked with new perks. Because airborne stats are about to become a thing. What if, when Season 18 drops, we're going to start seeing some guns return with perks that enhance airborne accuracy to give those weapons that boost when the time comes around, which means a whole new round of what's meta in Crucible. For slug shotguns, for different perks, you're going to want something that you can slot those things or have that option to be, do a little bunny hop in the air and make your shot.
Well, they kind of allude to that here in a little bit.
Yeah, and then same with armors too. I know they're coming out with some more mods, but that's something else that's very interesting as well. Oh, yeah. And this another reason for all this stuff we're also seeing like all of these weapon changes that are happening is probably another reason we haven't seen a lot more of our older weapons come back yet. Because if they're fundamentally changing like the way every weapon handles from the ground up, you want to keep that loot pool small. Because that means only every season that's coming out, you're only dropping a handful of weapons that are really good for that moment, But then
Yeah.
overall, if you're planning on adding a full new stat to things, that's new perk systems. That's new roles for different things. You got to bring everything back in.
Right.
So,
Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting because this is the like biggest like weapon drop we've had, like the Witch Queen,
mhm.
season 16 that we've ever had. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think it's going to be. I think you might be onto something.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they haven't. Yeah, but they allude to something like that here in just a second, actually.
Yeah,
So,
but that's my reason for coping why we don't have black armor and go weapons yet.
daw.
Also,
Eventually.
I love that we called the adapt weapons. We called it before they dropped. Like it was our podcast before the week that the grandmaster, the master mode for the nightfall, the raid came out,
Yeah.
and we were talking about it. And like, if they don't drop with enhanced perks, there
Mm-hmm.
is no reason to farm for it.
Oh, for sure.
And this is just it. This was a proving grounds to see what has to change for next time.
Mm-hmm.
And we called it. Like, there is no reason to farm it. You can go get the red bar weapons for the normal set and run it and be totally fine with those enhanced perks. Yes, you don't get a adapt mod, but your adapt perks trump those adapt mods so quickly.
Yeah, they do.
There's no reason. And
There's
unless they fundamentally change things for the next round, there is no reason for that stuff. Which again, I think this was a nice test of that. It's disappointing. This was one of the better raids, but unless they fix it soon, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe they say something about that here before the rotator comes out next season.
That's true.
So we
Anyway,
have
continue.
that to look forward to, but maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. The airborne effectiveness stat comes from three sources: weapon, subclass, and armor. The weapons base airborne effectiveness stat with ranges varying from 0 to 10 and 0 to 30 depending on the weapon archetype. Exotic weapons typically get bumped up, i.e., higher stats than legendary weapons in that archetype. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because you can't put Icarus on your exotic weapons. So
Right.
they're giving your exotic weapons a little bit of an extra bump there.
And that goes for everything. Like
Yes.
a lot of your mods and stuff that you could get, like sprint grip or adapted mag, or just like there's a bunch of different things that you can't put into a exotic weapon that other weapons can get. So that's why exotics have always felt a bit more beefy, which is why we saw a huge shift for primary exotics because they were just being left at the wayside. There was no reason to carry them when you had so many other great options.
Right.
And these changes are wonderful in my opinion.
I
So
think so. The Icarus Grip Adept Icarus Weapon mod will give plus 15 airborne effectiveness. Certain weapon perks, such as the redesigned Air Assault. This is what I was talking about before. They're bringing Air Assault back. Seems like it'll be back next season. Previously, it was only available on one weapon in the game, and that was Stringer. And it basically just it gave the weapon better accuracy while you were in the air. They've redesigned it, so we'll talk about that. They mention it later, exactly what it does now, so I won't get into that now. Valid stat ranges for legendary weapons. Exotics sometimes exceed these. Hand cannon, 0 to 25. Sidearm, 0 to 30. Auto rifle, 0 to 25. Pulse rifle, 0 to 25. Scout rifle, 0 to 20. Submachine gun, 0 to 30. I'm not going to keep saying the 0, it's all. They're all 0 because none of them have them right now. Bow, 20. Sniper, 5. Shotgun, 5. Fusion rifle, 10. Breach grenade launcher, 5. Good. Trace rifle, 15. Rocket launcher, 10. Machine gun, 20. Linear, 15. Drum grenade launcher, 20. Glaive, 15.
a little hostility there towards one of those.
Oh, man.
Good.
Sam, you weren't really playing the game in the days of the jumping mountaintop meta.
No, I was, and that's
Were
why I
you?
wasn't really playing Crucible. It's one of the many reasons. One of the many
Lord,
reasons.
I'm okay with that. Higher tiers of legendary weapons, i.e. Trials, Raids, Nightfalls, use the upper end of these ranges as with other stats. Some examples of exotic weapon outliers. Sweet business, 27. Merciless, 15. Fighting Lion, 12. Screw you. Sunshot, 27. Skyburner Zoe, 35. I'm going to be a Skyburner.
They really want that to come
No,
back.
I'm not going to be a Skyburners main, and I'll tell you why. Rat King 30, Huckleberry 33. Huckleberry's getting a
Dang.
buff. Dude, I am a huge Huckleberry fan. I'm going to be running the heck out of that gun next season.
Lee.
Ace of Spades, 15. Sorry.
That's diet submachine. That's diet sweet business right there.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Very, it's diet sweet business.
I'll talk about it, but we'll get into that later. Ace of Spades, as an example of an exotic that is already strong enough and doesn't need to excel here. Chaperone.
Yes.
1.
Good.
Good.
Moving on.
Thunderlord 26, Traveler's Chosen 35. I'm going to be using that. Redacted 29. Man, I can't wait to use Redacted next season.
So wait, 29. So if we're going into the highball area, that seems to be an auto rifle, pulse rifle, scout rifle range.
Yeah, something like that.
So
I'm going to say auto rifle, just because autos are auto or pulse. They're both 25.
Okay. Real quick. Let me pitch you my idea for a great auto rifle, okay? Here's what I want. I want a M4A1, like a Golden Age looking M4A1 with a grenade launcher. And the specialty perk is once you get a certain number of kills, you can fire off a grenade. And the gun, the 2 perks on the gun, it's Demolitionist and Osmosis. No, not Osmosis, but Adrenaline Junkie.
Okay.
And then you flip to the grenade launcher part, and when you fire the grenade launcher part, it reloads the magazine for your rifle, and keep going. Ultimate PvE weapon. And the ammo for the grenade launcher has to charge, and it's based out of the amount of kills that you get.
Maybe I can adjust that a little bit for you.
For
Potentially, you can. If you don't want to get a kill or kills to load it, which would be fine, I suppose, you can like hold the square button, the action button, to consume your grenade.
Yeah, I could see that. That could be the catalyst.
That could be, maybe something like that. But
because
that's cool. I like that.
Because it could be like the Forerunner, where it's just like an elementalist grenade.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you do that and consume your grenade, it gets chain reaction on it.
Okay.
You add another perk and fire off your grenade from your charged grenade. That then gives you chain reaction. That would be super fun for a PvE weapon. Anyway, continue on.
That'd be interesting.
I would love it.
I love Kvastov, so I would love.
That's what I want it to look like. It's an M4A1. God, I love that weapon. Anyway, moving on.
Some examples of hand-tuned legendary weapon stats: Frontier's Cry 19, Deliverance 9, Submission 27.
Cry.
Yeah, it's the that one. Yeah, it's weird. That one's weird.
What? That's the new one, isn't it?
The new 180 Iron Banner hand cannon. Yeah, it's a precision frame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought we were still talking about exotics. I'm like, I don't remember what it called Frontier. Oh, wait, then Legendaries. Yeah. I was like, I didn't recognize that name. Anyways.
Silicon Neuroma 4, Cantata 20. Oh, God.
Wait,
dang,
Submission
12.
got one?
Submission's getting
20.
27.
Yeah, baby.
Messenger 20, Hung Jury 22, Ragnahild 3, Igneous Hammer 23. That's interesting. It's interesting that they're giving something like an Igneous Hammer, a high impact hand cannon, more than Frontier's Cry. That's strange to me.
I think it's because, like they said, they trials, raids, and nightfalls get higher end of the stats, and that is like the pinnacle of hand cannons for PvP. So if you grind it up to get to that, by all means.
Interestingly enough, Igneous Hammer's not even in the loot pool right now. They took it out. Or are they taking... Yeah, it is. It's not in there right now. We can't get it right now. Mm-hmm. So, moving on to subclasses. First one, big one. Heat Rises adds plus 70 while Heat Rises is active.
Yep.
Plus 70.
But that was already built into the kit to begin with.
Yeah.
Where you got extra damage out of it too. And that part has been nerfed in the past. So the extra accuracy is nice.
I feel like this pretty much verifies that it's going to be Arc next season, though, and not Solar. Mm-hmm. So.
Oh no, they've talked about it. It's going to be Arc next season.
Oh, okay.
I think it was said a little while ago that next season's Arc.
I've slept since then. Tempered Metal plus 20 after getting a Solar weapon kill. Whisper of Hedron Stasis Fragment plus 20 after freezing a target. And now we move on to exotic armor. Armor that revolves around being airborne or works with specific weapons grants a bonus or penalty to in the -50 to +40 range or higher if conditional. You guys ready?
Mm.
Foe Tracer +20 to all. Machineer's Trick Sleeves +50 to sidearms. Oathkeepers +40 to bows. Sealed Hamkara Grasp +50 to all weapons for 5 seconds after a melee hit. Lucky Pants +20 to hand cannons after
Skip
readying
the next one. We'll come back to that last. Skip the next one. We'll go
No
to the
backup
last.
plans +30 to shotguns. Axiom War Rig +30 to autos and machine guns. Hollow Fire Heart +20 to all. Lion Rampants +50 to hipfire only. Peacekeepers +40 to SMGs. Paragon Greaves +20 to all. Eye of Another World +15 to all. Astrocyte Verse +30 to all. Ophidian Aspect +10 to all. Necrotic Grips +30 to Weapons of Sorrow. That's an interesting one. Wings of Sacred Dawn +50 to all. Boots of the Assembler +30 to Lumina. Redacted +30 to fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles.
Weapons of Sorrow.
Yeah.
What specific is that?
I want to say that's your 3 hand cannons. That's Malfeasance, Lumina, and Thorn.
Really?
I think so.
Oh. Anyways, so I had Legend skip over one of those. He's made a video about it on his channel. I think it's your most recent one,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
But I want to hear it from you now. Stompies has a -50 airborne accuracy to every gun that you possess. Go.
I mentioned in my video that it seems excessive. -50 to all. I do feel like -20 or -30 even would have been sufficient, because that makes, that just means that, you, while you're wearing Stompies, you're running around quicker, you're sliding quicker, you're jumping higher. These are all things that Stompies does. I know this, I get that. But I feel like what this is going to do is this is going to make people just not use them at all.
Yep.
I feel like if you would have just left it at -20 or 30, people would have not been forced to use other things, but they
would have found their way to something else.
They would have found their way to something else.
Yeah.
But this is just going to turn people off of it altogether, and you're not going to see it used anymore. And
For sure.
that, I think Bungie has mentioned before that that's not something that they want to do, and I feel like that's exactly what they've done.
Yes.
So
agreed.
I don't know. It's interesting because you've already done this for shotguns. So somebody wearing Stompies running around with a shotgun still not going to be as effective already, even if you leave it at the way it is right now.
Right.
And the same, your Stompies users, your competitive players are running shotguns. They're running hand cannons. Maybe sidearms.
That's almost
snipers.
every loadout you're seeing in Osiris right now.
And both of those things, hand cannons and shotguns, the changes to those alone are sufficient. And this just seems excessive.
Yeah, this isn't shaking up the meta. This is setting it on fire and blowing it up, Michael Bay style. I will say, in the past, they've made nerfs that have been so dramatic that it's all but killed the exotic. Geomag stabilizers is my best example to this. For Warlocks, they got nerfed because they were too strong in PvP. In my opinion, they were fine for PvE, and they could have stayed the same way. Being able to charge your last little bit of super was nice. Being able to do more damage the longer you hit something is great. The reason they got taken out back and hit with a shotgun is it was going through walls in PvP. That's the no-no. Warlocks were using it, charging up their last little bit of super, and switching to something else. Also a no-no. There are fixes for this. Lock armor for competitive play.
Yeah.
There were so many other little fixes they could have done to save the exotic, but no, they buried it. It does nothing other than just extend the time, and they nerfed the damage. There's no reason to run Geomags now. Every Warlock that used it walked away from it. It's a dead exotic to us. That's what they're doing to Stompies. They're burying these.
Yeah.
With all of the changes that are coming out for shotguns and hand cannons, and then the extra 50% nerf to this, there is no reason to run that. And the reason I can only assume that they're doing this is they want hunters to spread away from it. We're going to see here in a minute, there's a graph that you can see like what exotics get used in PvP, and the number one hunter one is Stompies.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. And rightfully so. It's a solid exotic. Lets you run, sprint, jump higher. These things are crucial to a hunter. That's the whole kit design. You're more mobile. However, Warlocks and Titans can hang in the air. They can get the maximum benefit from inborn accuracy. Hunters have to use spray and pray tactics. They're jumping over things. They're getting the extra little bit for that short period of time. They're making full advantage of needing that full 100% accuracy spread for a shotgun. Seeing this really just kind of compacts like you can't do that anymore. They're really shifting from this ability and class and ability, class, and exotic style gameplay, and they're shoving it out the window. It's all about the guns. Because we're seeing that from you no longer get to run and gun as a hunter, basically, is what this is nerfing. The Titan Bubble and the Well of Radiance now have health bars. You can't camp. They're nerfing out the supers that would devastate a battlefield or let you camp back, and they're shifting all of their focus to these gunplay metas, which I'm excited to see. But we're really again, this is another form of Destiny taking its identity here. We're changing PvP into being this gun game instead of ability play. I feel like this is more accommodating for people who are going to come over from Call of Duty and from Battlefield and from other like gun type play games where your abilities aren't the focus, it's the guns.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're really building into that, which is why I feel like Stompy's got like the shotgun treatment, but I don't think they deserve to be taken out back that hard.
We've seen examples of Bungie do this multiple times, and his Geomags, that's the best example. Stompy's now, that's a prime example of a little bit of laziness on their part, where they could soft tune it. They could do other things that would benefit the game way more than just nerfing the weapon or the exotic armor. But
I feel like they're
you mentioned it with Geomags. Instead of worrying about nerfing or taking off the perk where it tops off your super, basically killing it. Now you could have just made it to where if you're playing a competitive game mode or trials or something like that, you can't change your stuff. I can't go into a master raid or a grandmaster nightfall or even a master nightfall without my loadout being locked.
You commit to it all.
Yeah, if you're using, for whatever reason, if you're using Kamehameha and Grandmasters, and you had the ability, you were close to your super, and you had the ability to switch to Geomags, I'm sure you would,
Yeah, right.
But you can't. So it seems to me like they could have just done that. I mentioned another video earlier this week. This was before all of this came out, mind you. This was before the changes to flinch. This was before the stomping nerf. Before the airborne effectiveness stat was announced. I made a video earlier this week talking about armor stats in PvP. Cool guy released a tweet, and he said, what if they did something like this? And what it was a picture of Stompies, and built into the exotic was a -2 mobility and -2 recovery. I don't know why, but I said that seems redundant. That seems redundant, and then I went on to explain my why and something that you could do that would be better if you want to make this game more inviting for your Call of Duty players, for your Overwatch players, for people that play arena shooters often. Turn off the armor stats in PvP altogether.
Right.
Just no armor stats. Okay, that's going to do a couple things. First thing that's going to do is that's going to open up build crafting by allowing you to not have to put resilience or intellect mods on your armor. Other thing that's going to do is that's going to make that's going to put everybody on the same playing field so far as mobility,
Yep.
so far as recovery goes, so far as resilience goes, so far as charging supers, grenades, all of that. Everybody
Yeah.
will be on the same playing field. The only thing that enhances those things are exotics with perks.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And your class
And
to a certain
your
degree.
class, yeah, for sure. Your class can do that too.
And that really takes it back to like what Destiny 1 was.
Yeah.
Destiny 1 didn't have a lot of armor crafting, build crafting, all this stuff. Everyone was basically on the same level to a certain degree. And yeah, it was the exotics that made the difference. There were guns that ruled the meta until they fixed it. But I feel like that's easier to tune than armor stats. And I like that we're tuning armor stats. I see why they're there. It gives every player a sense of individuality, but you're also penalizing players who don't understand. This is something that we've talked about before. Have an in-game tutorial explaining build crafting. There is no help when it comes to building mods. I have introduced several people to this game every time we play. And we go in to do something, I'm like, hang on, I'm switching my mods. Well, why? It enhances all of my stuff. And I end up doing way better than they do. And they don't understand. And so I have to sit down and like, my dad is one of these people, my cousin's another one. Like, I'll sit down and show them a build for something, and they're still using that same build for every avenue of the game. I get it. There should be like a station in the tower, like the optimizer. You walk into it like, I'm gonna go do Vanguard. Optimizes your mods. Something. Anything.
This is much easier to do now, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. For one, they've enhanced the UI of the game to work with third-party apps, to where I can open up the dim right now and go through my loadouts and hit equip, and it will equip all of my stuff on my game for me. I don't have to do a thing. It'll change. It'll change my mods. It'll change my my
your perks, everything.
Yeah, everything.
Shaders and everything.
And also mods and stuff. They've made all of that stuff, free to change now. You don't have to pay anything to change it. So that's not something you have to worry about anymore.
But you can do that. You can go to this little station, pay Glimmer. It's like, okay, cool. I don't want to have to worry about that. I will pay Glimmer. To cost nothing for Bungie to do.
Loadout.
Yeah, I'm going to go do this. Optimize my gear for that. Bang. Okay, cool. And it's like they can take it a step further where it's like, oh, these are the weapons that are better enhanced for this week's rotator of strikes. You want to use these? Sure. I get it, and I don't get it. I see why. I don't see why. It is such a fundamental part of their game, and we haven't seen a change in this yet. I imagine we will. As they continue to stack more and more on, we're either going to see it where it's one of two things. It's either going to oversimplify, where they have so much stuff that it becomes too much of a headache to do, and people are going to start leaving over it, and they're going to flip a switch, and it's going to be super simple, and it's like, done.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be an in-game optimizer for it. So that's my prediction.
Yeah. Maybe.
But yeah.
I just overall, I don't know, a couple things that, the way they worded it, something can get as much as a minus 50 reduction, or as much as a plus 40 increase or whatever. No, there's only one reduction. And
yeah.
You know what? Again, final thoughts on it. I get it. I understand. I 100% understand. But I feel like with the changes that we've already had to our airborne effectiveness on shotguns and hand cannons and stuff like that, it's the word that I keep using, but excessive.
Yes, agreed.
And that's
I honestly could have seen maybe a 35 at maximum for this.
Sure.
Because that's still a significant penalty, and it changes the meta.
That being said, I don't want to disregard all of this other stuff. Very cool stuff here.
Yes.
The fact that,
again,
Boots of the Assembler with Lumina, I mentioned it to him earlier. He mentioned Boots and Lumina. I was like, this is Lumina. It's going to be pretty good.
Be huge. I will say this. We're also talking about a super niche stat for PvP only.
This Airborne effectiveness
affect...
Yeah.
This isn't going to be a huge deal for PvE. This is not going to be a huge deal for Grandmasters or
Hugely
raids or
important.
anything else, you're not going to come across, unless you find a weirdo out there who's like, we're doing Vow of the Disciple on normal mode, have to have 100% airborne accuracy.
Done.
Oh, you do you, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey,
But
we had a guy that would jump into a day one raid a while back in the clan that would run in with last word in the raid.
yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that's that guy.
Yep.
But plus 50 for sidearms with Machinair's trick sleeves. Honestly,
Super nice.
I might pair up Machinair's trick sleeves with Traveler's Chosen. That might be a thing that I do next season.
Or the Seven Seraph sidearm. I love that thing. That's so stable. It looks like an M9.
Yeah, I like it.
So nice.
I like it. So,
But yeah, again, this is a niche stat that really only affects PvP. We're both very passionate about this game. This is why we feel this way about these kinds of stats. Again, you're only going to be seeing these major problem changes for PvP. It's not going to affect you super big in PvE. So if you're worried about that, don't. It's okay.
I mentioned before, and I'll say this now. I've been playing with other exotics anyways. I'll put on Stompies for competitive, or if I'm going to do a 1v1 or something, for sure I'll put Stompies on. But I've mained Dragon Shadow. I used to love Dragon Shadow more than that. Or Worm Husk, or even Foe Tracer. And Foe Tracer gives me a plus there now, so I might run Foe Tracer.
There are other things you can be doing now.
There's 100 other things I can be doing, so I'm really not too
they're
concerned
really
about it.
pushing that meta.
They are.
So, and I think we're gonna see something big come out next season where it's like the changes they're making now are just it's pushing us forward. It's the catalyst that's gonna increase and change everything moving.
I got to ask you this question.
Mhm.
We're clearly getting an exotic armor piece that affects fusion rifles and linear fusion somehow.
Yeah.
Who's it for?
What do you mean?
Redacted. Plus 30 to fusion rifles and linear fusions.
I'm gonna say Warlocks. We've always been synonymous with that stuff.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. Because hunters have the bow and the sidearms and hand cannons, and then the Titans have you guys have a ton.
Auto
and
rifles,
then the Titans
machine guns, and SMGs.
Yeah, they have we have nothing specific for weapons. So I imagine that's going to be for us. If it's not, I'm going to flip out.
That's why I had to ask you, because I knew.
Yeah. I will say, with Airborne stats coming back, you know how likely we're going to probably see, what's that chess piece that they gave to the Icarus Dash to?
Oh, for Titans,
Yeah,
I can't remember what that stupid thing's called. I never had it.
I know blood's gonna be sounding off in the comments later, but that if I imagine that'll come back now that there's more airplay for all classes.
Was there any exotic armor that affected fusion rifles in D1 for Warlocks? It seemed like there was. I could be wrong. Maybe it's coming back if there is.
No,
it seemed like there was something.
That's a good point. We should honestly look into that. So I think you're checking that.
Yeah.
While he's checking that, on screen there is the stats for all of the exotics being used in current PvP taken as of this last season. For hunters, the number one thing is Stompies. That is the one thing that almost over half of the hunter mains use. And the hunters outnumber every other class 3-1. Like, it's insane how many hunters are actually in the game. I think the least amount of something in the game is Warlocks, and then the second's Titans. Warlocks, the number one thing for us is Ophidian Aspects. Great exotic, faster reload, better weapon handling, longer melee. Pretty cool. But then Titans don't have a clear winner. There's a couple of good ones in there, but nothing that oversaturates. There's not like, oh man, I'm always running into this. It's like you might run into a couple of these and a couple of those, but it's not always the same thing. I was honestly surprised Transversive Steps and Stag wasn't it there for the Warlock, because those were some pretty niche things coming up as of a couple seasons ago. But I mean, Ophidian Aspects are nice and static.
Only thing that I can find is that Warlocks had Susanoo, an actual fusion rifle that was exclusive to them.
Yeah.
By the way, amazing name for a fusion rifle.
Yeah, I think it was Arc too, because Susanoo was the is the Japanese god of the summer storm.
That's awesome.
He's a brother to what's her name? Um, gosh, that's what I don't remember her name.
I'm going to go ahead and say, though, I agree with Sam. I think it's probably going to be a Warlock exotic armor, but we'll see. Moving on.
You think it's gonna be gloves? Gonna be gloves?
I would say, ooh, that's a good question. I really couldn't tell you. Probably gloves or a chest piece. You know what? When was the last time Warlocks got a helmet?
A while ago.
That's been a while.
But I feel like helmet's not going to benefit. Well, it might benefit aim. I don't know.
Aim or something, yeah, maybe. All right, moving on. Playlist weapons.
I explained that a little bit. Oh yeah, no, keep going. Yeah. So this was what I was talking about a little bit earlier. A lot of things are moving out of the loot pool, and I think they're getting pulled from the loot pool to get these new stats and to get these fixes, and then be dropped back in later. So,
playlist weapons now have a chance to roll with an extra traits in one or both columns, increasing with the number of rank resets with the vendor during a given season. Note, reputation resets each season, so you'll need to play these activities each season to unlock the potential for extra perks. All playlist weapons from Beyond Light and later will drop with the appropriate origin trait.
which is super cool.
Super cool. Stat display update. Following the recent change to show numbers to all stats instead of just bars, we've opted to change the stat display on weapons to more clearly reflect their capabilities. All weapon stat bars now range from 0 to 100 instead of being limited to some range in the middle of the bar. The change eliminates rounding and other errors, particularly on adept weapons, masterworks, and enhanced traits, and better conveys the bounds of the weapon stat that can exist within. This is a purely display change. No weapon behavior has changed, but you should expect all existing weapon stat bars to look slightly different.
This isn't moving forward as of next
Yes,
season.
next season.
So yeah.
All of these changes next season. One hit kills and special ammo. This is huge. Okay, so
This is a nice quality of life change because there's so many opportunities where you're running around the corner, sniped in the head.
Oh, no, not
You're
even
that
that.
guy.
Not even sniped in the head. No, it's not about that. It's about getting sniped in the body and killed. There are several damage buffs external to weapons that allow weapons to one-hit kill without much investment, such as an aggressive sniper rifle with high-impact reserves, Ariana's Vow, or Le Monarch, specifically when combined with an external 20% damage buff. As an example, Empowering Rift can give many snipers one-hit body shot capabilities in the Crucible. I've abused that more than once.
I know.
Most of these are the same buff under the hood, so we've adjusted them all at once. With these changes, it's going to be much rarer to get an easy one-hit kill with a weapon that wouldn't typically allow it. Reduce the damage bonus from Empowering Rift, High Energy Fire, and Inertia Override from 20% to 15% against players, no effects in PvE. In addition...
This.
Yes. In addition...
That little subtext right there.
Oh, no effect
needs
in PvE?
to continue to happen.
That's
it.
They've been doing it more and more.
I know, but that little subtext
that's all it takes.
Fixes the comment section.
That's all it takes.
It's a small, significant change to the players. It makes a world of difference. Stop screwing over PvE stuff in favor of the people that are crying out on Twitter, legend.
Wow.
Anyway.
In addition, we want special ammo to be less plentiful, making it more difficult to change special weapon kills. Disabled ammo scavenger armor mods in PvP.
Oof.
No matter how much ammo a player was carrying on death, if you pick up a special break, you can only get one ammo for a shotgun, sniper rifle, or 1 kill's worth of ammo for weapons that require more than one shot to kill, e.g. foe runner trace rifles. Retune several special weapon archetypes and exotic weapons, see below, with the general goal of reducing the effectiveness and uptime of special weapons. Huge. That is huge.
Again, really shifting that meta into primary weapon play. Your special weapons are meant to be support, not your lead weapon. You shouldn't be playing the entire match with just a special weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It should be your backup.
I've done it, man. I'll tell you right now, I went to Zur. Everybody, if you want to go check Zur out and see what the next God Roll Fusion Rifle is, he has it. It's there right now. Go get it. The Iota Draconis from last season. He's got the high impact reserves. What's the other perk? High impact reserves and under pressure.
Yeah.
On a high impact, which has The best kill potential out of all the fusion rifles, because it's a high impact, it's slower charge time. Right now, it's a 1 second charge time. There's a thing down here later that tells you it's going to go down next season to a 960 charge time. If you want to know what that feels like, go get this fusion rifle. It's got a charge masterwork on it. You masterwork it to 10, it's going to be a 960 charge time. So next season, potentially
or even faster.
Be even faster, like just over 9 seconds. So, not 9 seconds, 0.9 seconds. It's interesting, and I played 2 games with it. I've already gotten 44 kills on the stupid thing. So next season's gonna be lit, fam. Let's
shut up.
Special weapons. All special weapons.
You're too old to say those things.
Don't assume my age. All special weapons have had their in-air accuracy significantly reduced. While we are okay with encouraging players to build into using primary weapons more effectively in the air, we do not believe a prevalence of airborne one-hit kill options is good for PvP. Special weapons have a slightly larger airborne accuracy penalty than primary weapons at 0 airborne effectiveness stat and reduced 0 to 100 stat. Special weapons have a similar airborne aim assist cone penalty to other weapons, around 50% at a 0 stat, and this penalty can be reduced but not internally removed by investing in airborne effectiveness. Sniper rifles are fairly slow to ready, stow, and ADS, which has made snapshot fill mandatory for many players. Reduce stow, ready, and ADS times by 10%, i.e. all snipers are now snappier. There's a matching change to snapshot below. Snipers have less access to ammo than shotguns and fusion rifles, where kills drop ammo right in front of you, so we think ammo scarcity will prevent snipers from spiking.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and this also coincides with the fact that they're going to be reworking the changes to Iron Banner.
Yeah,
you don't have to use weapon-specific kills, because in the past we've had heavy machine gun or rocket launcher or sniper rifles. These things are being removed from those kinds of bounties, which makes these changes so much better.
Yeah.
It's not a devastating thing to have to go into the Crucible and be like, I have to get 10 sniper kills. I don't use a sniper. I really don't. And then with the ammo changes, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't find enough bricks. They're fixing that problem. And this is all coming next season, which is so nice.
Slug and pellet shotguns are still overwhelmingly popular in PvP despite some recent changes, so we've touched them again with the goal of encouraging some diversity in special weapon choice. I don't like the way they phrase that. Shotgun usage has gone way down in favor of fusion rifles lately.
You're looking at, like, I wouldn't say meta. I would say you're looking at, like, competitive.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at, like, the low tier stuff. I feel like people who use fusion rifles are the ones who know how to build craft and understand how things get nerfed. Shotguns are always an easy grab, especially for people who are coming from other games. Shotguns, running and gunning, is a huge thing, and if you don't watch or read these TWABs, you don't understand how badly these things are getting nerfed.
Yeah.
So them adjusting it the way they're adjusting it, it's hopefully going to deter these new lights from using those things and getting spanked with better and easier guns to kill them with. And by doing that, they're going to eventually shift over.
I'll just give you guys the numbers real quick for shotguns. Basically, like right now, the best of the best God World shotgun aggressive frame will get you about a 9-meter kill. That's going to go down to about 7 meters. That's basically what that means. So you just have to be a little bit closer for the most part. I don't know. I get what Sam is saying, and I understand what they mean. Like, there's definitely more people using slug shotguns than ever since pellet shotguns got nerfed. But I would have liked to see them retune that a little bit. Like fusions, fine, leave them alone, and then bring the shotguns up just a hair. Like, not much, just a hair.
Yeah.
I guess it's really hard to do without making one thing overpowered, though. I don't know.
And again, they're shifting this to primary gunplay. We're shifting to more cover shooting, a little bit more distance, play a little bit more tactically. This isn't a run and gun anymore. They're trying to limit that with this. And I feel like this is going to help. It's not going to kill it.
Yeah. Fusion rifle usage is trending pretty high, particularly in trials, and bringing shotguns down a little more would make them too good an option, so we've made a global change. With these changes, 20-plus meter fusion rifle one-hit kills should be very uncommon through a combination of damage falloffs and recoil changes. Reduced damage falloff near distance, 2 meters at 0 range, 2.7 meters with ADS with a 15 zoom stat, 1.3 meters at 100 range, 2.275 meters with ADS at a 15 zoom stat. Reduced damage falloff far distance, 1 meter at 0 range, 1.3 meters at 100 range. Reduced recoil scalar variance between 0 to 100 stability. 0 stability unchanged. 100 stability increased from 0.5 to 0.55. Increased the recoil penalty slightly.
And see, they mentioned trials. Trials is endgame. You watch or you read stuff when it comes to your endgame PvP. They're the ones who understand what's meta. We saw shotguns in normal Crucible because anybody jumps into that.
Yeah.
We know what's really going on when it comes to fusion rifles, and that's why there's that shift.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm a huge fusion rifle user. I love fusion rifles.
Yeah, they're great.
The Cartesian coordinate, which is at the top of this list here, and rightfully so. I've been using Cartesian since before it got buffed. So
before it got really it's time in the sun.
Yeah. When we rebuilt fusion rifles in Season 15, we wanted to differentiate the subfamilies dramatically from each other, which worked. Now that we've seen them in action for a couple of seasons, we're pulling back from the extremes a little. With these changes, fusion rifle subfamilies are still very different from each other, but high impacts are stronger and rapid fire precision should be a little less dominant. High impacts reduced unmodified high impact charge time from 1 second to 0.96 seconds. Increased damage per burst by 10. That's interesting because I've never seen them word it like that. For burst, it used to be per bolt.
Yes.
So it's interesting the way that they've worded that.
Wait, what archetype was that?
High impacts. So it's getting a slight increase with the lower charge time.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's how it should be.
Yeah. That probably means that they're changing way each of the bolts hit. And it's just easier to say burst because the overall, if this entire burst hits you, then this is what it does. Because they fire off 4 or 5 bolts at a time.
Precision frames going from 740 to 780. Second charge time. Rapid fires going from 460 to 500 charge time, and decrease the damage per burst by 20. Yeah, that's pretty huge. New charge time and damage per burst for all fusion subfamilies. Yeah, 960, 330 damage for high impacts. That's pretty good. So rapid fires is going to be it's a 0.5 second charge time, so half a second with 245 damage. So 245. Give me just 1 second. Pull this up. So 245. So
he's doing math.
Okay. So you still have to hit 7 bolts.
Yeah.
Fusion rifles.
So 2 bursts.
No, not even 2 bursts. Rapid fires can still one hit kill, but you have to hit 7 bolts out of it because they shoot 8.
Oh right.
So,
which means you're up close. Not as close as a shotgun, but still moderately close.
Basically, they're doing almost 31 damage per bolt. So 7 bolts will do 214 damage. Underneath that, the 6 bolts, that means the 6 bolts will do about 185 damage, thereabout. So, high impact's doing 330. Good lord. Actually, that's actually kind of funny. 330 divided by 8. Good God. High impacts do 41.25 damage per bolt.
Legend uses himself pretty easily.
Oh, this is funny. Dude, you only have to hit 5 bolts with a high impact to get a kill.
Which is why it's the
easier
choice.
I know. Okay.
More range, easier power. It's a no-brainer.
Oh, Oh, Jesus. This is fun. Besides Divinity, trace rifles aren't as popular in hard content. So they're increasing trace rifle damage against non-red bar combatants by 20% and increasing ammo picked up from per brick from 18 to 30. So that's cool.
Tell you what, you give us more legendary ones, and we might see that. The fact is, you're giving up an exotic slot
That's exactly right.
without any additional things. Like, Divinity, the reason it's effective is not only does it buff damage,
Only one
it
person has
also
to wear it.
exactly, and it disrupts.
Yeah.
When is the last time we had a season where trace rifles had to be used for barriers or unstoppables? The answer is never. Because there are no legendary ones in the loot pool. Other than the one they just dropped recently. Put more legendaries in and give them a bit more like legs to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you'll probably see that number go up. Otherwise, they're not good. They could honestly use a rework.
Yeah, they could. And we'll see some of them are getting a rework here pretty soon.
That's good because what is it? The avoid one? That one, the damage is so inconsistent. You pick up an orb and it spikes, but it doesn't stay consistent. And yeah.
No, you're exactly right. I think it's important to remember that trace rifles, they basically whenever they first came out, and
they were laser pointers. They were so good.
And what was that? The Osiris
Cold
season.
Heart.
The Osiris season that we had. Yeah. Cold Heart.
Oh. No. Cold Heart dropped with Destiny 2.
That's right.
And
on PlayStation.
That was the one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cold Heart was basically an auto rifle, right? That's what it was. It was supposed to be a different version of an auto rifle. That's why auto rifle mods worked for it back in the day.
And back in the day, if you wanted to finish, what's his name? Big fat man with a goblet. Raid. Cabal.
Yeah. Callus.
So if you wanted to do the Callus encounter, you had to have Cold Heart. Why? Because when the spectral mouth opened its mouth up and it started shooting all those skulls, if you had two people using Cold Heart, you cleared the sky.
100.
You went and
100
did
of them.
Boom. Just one phased. So easy.
Basically, the thing is Cold Heart, the thing that made it a trace rifle was its exotic perk. Its exotic perk made it like, here, exotic perk shoots a friggin' laser beam. Like, yeah. So yes, they could use a buff, and as you'll see here in a minute, they're going to get a bit of a buff. But yeah, the changes to the ammo economy for them, that's awesome. Primary weapons, auto rifles, and pulse rifles aren't as competitive as we'd like at mid-range. So, auto rifles increase damage fall off near distance by 0.75 meters. That's not a huge buff. Pulse rifles, though, increase damage fall off distance based on the range stat. 0 range increased from 15 to 16. 100 range increased from 22.5 to 24 meters, which is pretty huge. But the big one here, increased lightweight 450 RPM pulse rifle damage per bullet from 15 to 16. This won't change the optimal TTK, but will reduce the number of crits required. Exactly. I like that. The new Insidious Pulse Rifle, my Blast Furnace, lightweight frames, that's cool. Zoom is too important a factor on SMGs, so increase damage fall off by 1.5 meters. Adjust the zoom values on most viable legendary SMGs and one exotic. Shayera's Wrath 17 to 16, Multi-Mox 17 to 15, Stochastic Variable 13 to 14, Ikolos 13 to 14, Seven Seraph 13 to 14, Every Waking Moment 13 to 14, Huckleberry 13 to 15. Yeah, get it.
There's nothing in there about submission, which upsets me.
They already mentioned submission. I mean,
I know, and it's getting a wonderful.
This is great.
I love that gun. I love that gun.
We like adaptive SMGs and are starting to make them again. Decreased body damage from 12 to 11.25, increased precision multiplier from 1.35 to 1.4. So basically less body damage, more precision damage.
Right.
Precision hand cannons, intrinsic switched from 75% airborne accuracy penalty reduction to plus 25 airborne effectiveness stat. This means that if you had a Frontier's Cry with the Icarus Grip mod on it, you would be at 19 plus 25 plus 15 plus 59 before factoring armor and subclasses. Okay, I get it now. Earlier it mentioned Frontier's Cry and it said it had a 19 aim assist. That's before factoring in the fact that it's got its own intrinsic plus 25
Mm-hmm.
for being okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it got a substantial
Okay. I'm fine
buff
with
for
that.
everything else.
I'm fine
Yeah,
with that. Heavy weapons, increased damage for machine guns, 40% against PvE enemies, 20% versus bosses. So,
I would love to see a meta where LMGs got their day.
soon enough. Soon enough, maybe next season, as we're seeing Xenophage is going to get a little rework. Xenophage and Grand Overture receive this buff, except for the bonus versus bosses. So, more PvE damage, anyways. Sword stats have been inconsistent for a while now. Fixed several inconsistencies in the stat display between different swords. There's no gameplay impact. Increased the charge rate stat for Soul Scar from 20 to 50 to match Temptation's Hook. I didn't realize that was a problem. Of course, I've never used it. Rocket launcher subfamilies. Precisions, minus 10 damage, both impact and detonation. High impacts, no change. This subfamily has the highest blast radius. Adaptive and aggressive, plus 10 damage. So that's cool.
Okay.
Really pulling away from the precision frames there. Like, a lot of people feel like they have to. I mean, this is good. I've already got several, like, aggressive frames in my vault that have the tracking rockets on it, so I'll take it. Exotics. All exotics that shipped before Forsaken release now have their kill trackers visible by default. Fighting Lion needed a bit more of a buff? Not really. So we improved its reload speed when Thin the Herd is active a couple of releases back, and now we're increasing its blast radius and damage. Reverted the Season 15 change for Breach Grenade Launcher blast radius reduction, but just for Fighting Lion. Screw you
Oh,
guys,
joy.
man. Screw you.
So Fighting Lion is pretty close to what Mountaintop used to be, and that's why we're upset, because like Mountaintop was what ruled the Crucible. Especially as a hunter, you could just jump, boom, dead.
It's different because Fighting Lion can't one hit kill you. It's a primary. It's not a special.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm fine with it, I guess. Eyes of Tomorrow is a raid exotic, ought to be better against PvE enemies. With this change, it's a solid option in this role, particularly with the Adaptive Ordnance perk active. Increased damage versus bosses and champions by 30%. There's another change.
Actually might make it worth it.
It might. There's another change we'll see later that will make it even more user-friendly. Leviathan's Breath always felt like it should absolutely wreck champions.
Yes.
But it's Leviathan's Breath, so Archer's Tempo perk from the Catalyst now has an increased effect just on this weapon. A standard draw time scalar for Archer's Tempo is 0.75 times. It is now 0.56 to 5 times on Leviathan's Breath. Added a small delay.
I never got that catalyst.
Yeah, really? Huh.
Yeah, I could not get it to drop for me.
Huh, interesting. Added a small delay before a detonation on champions, mini-bosses, and bosses. This allows the impact to stun an unstoppable champion and the detonation to deal bonus damage. Damage changed to be more of an even split between impact and detonation, and increased damage across the board by 50%. Overall damage versus champions is roughly doubled, even more compared to shooting an unstunned, unstoppable champion. The Huckleberry had an underwhelming engagement range updating zoom based on the change to baseline submachine gun zoom. Increased the zoom stat from 13 to 15. God, I'm going to use the heck out of that gun next season. Remember, everybody, Huckleberry still has the original Rampage on it. Rampage times 3 is a 50% damage buff. Only on Huckleberry.
Everybody sleeps on it.
Bastards. Our experiment with pushing Xenophage into hard-hitting but slower firing didn't pan out, so we're increasing the rate of fire and adjusting damage back to what it was. Increased rate of fire to 100 RPM from 100 to 120. Reduced damage per bullet to match the previous. Doesn't benefit from the Season 17 LMG machine gun buff versus bosses.
So Xenophage used to be like the thing. If you had to have it because it was so good.
I like it.
Especially for Titans, man. Titans with the chest piece,
Action
just
rig.
So good for bosses. So good. Because you could just keep going.
Le Monarch is too oppressive when combined with external damage buffs. Do you agree with that? But we felt that it could be stronger in PvE.
Yeah!
Which is,
give it to me.
Reduce poison tick damage versus players by 25%. I'm fine with that.
Fine.
Change poison damage from burn to poison. We'll talk about that in a second. And increase poison tick damage versus AI by 50%. So, doing more damage to PvE players, less damage to PvP players. Change the damage type from burn to poison. They make a note to say that it's not gameplay significant, but I want
It
your
will be.
theory. Is this going to potentially make it work with necrotic grips?
I think so.
If,
Because
dude.
so here's the thing. Here's one of the reasons why it was so good without necrotic grips, or with the necrotic grips, right? So necrotic grips, its thing was poison. This was burn. The two of them stacked. I think they're going to cancel each other out,
For sure.
which is upsetting. But the fact that they had to this is a poison, this is burn, means we're potentially going to be seeing more stuff like that in the future, which gives me hope for that poison subclass.
Yeah.
But I love the Monarch. That was my number one thing last season, or well, actually last year. Last year that was my number one exotically used weapon. Still is. I love the thing. So good. Sick range, good impact, and now it's getting buffed for PvE, which is where I'll play. Love it. My ideal loadout is submission,
Monarch.
Monarch, and then I usually run either linear or I run Bad Omens.
Bad Omens, wow.
Bad Omens with
Interesting.
auto reloading and
Clusters.
clusters.
Lawrence Driver can be difficult to fight against in PvP. Reduced body shot damage against players by 20%.
Thank
Body
God.
damage reverts to old behavior when the weapon's damage mode, precision damage mode, and any mode unchanged. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Whatever.
Weapon can piss off.
You can nerf that one into the ground. I don't care.
Please.
Skyburner's Oath. Increased
They
ADS
really want it
project.
back.
Man, you have no idea. Increased ADS projectile speed to 99999. Basically, it's a hit scan weapon now. Both ADS and hipfire are now 150 RPM. I do hate that. They went with the slower speed instead of the faster speed. I hate that. Hipfire projectiles no longer tracks, but arcs similar to grenade launcher and has a larger detonation size than ADS. Hipfire detonation. Huh?
Go ahead.
The hipfire detonation also applies burn to targets. The bonus range from the masterwork has been rolled onto the base stats of the weapon. The masterwork now grants bonus reload speed instead. Has the highest airborne effectiveness stat of any weapon in the game.
So I do like that the weapon no longer tracks. And the reason for that is this. There was actually some times where I think it was the very first time Proving Grounds came out. This weapon was the one to use.
Oh, yeah.
And he would be hiding behind cover, and the weapon would like curve and it would hit the wall because it was trying to hit the enemy, and you're just trying to lob it over, and it wasn't working. It was this is a nice change. I like that.
I would have loved for them to leave it a projectile weapon, and then they fixed the masterwork on it to grant reload speed. I wish they would have fixed that to give it full court.
That would have been nice,
dude.
That would have been a super unique scout rifle.
Yes, and it adds burn to targets now, so that's cool. So works against penetrate shields whenever there's barrier, increased damage to Cabal, the burn, all that. It's good. I like it.
Yeah.
Last Word plays very differently on M&K. So reduce M&K recoil penalty from 33 to 22%. So that's a pretty good buff for PV for M&K anyways. Arbalist is more dominant than intended in hard PvE content. I don't like this one. Reduce damage versus champions by 25%, but will still break barriers in one hit. I don't like that. That's
Same.
the entire reason I used it. I was like, this is a great go-to anti-barrier weapon. The only other one I have is Ariana's Vow, and this is better. So
Sure.
I don't like this.
I think that's why they nerfed it a bit. They want to bring it more in line, because if you have one dominant option versus the other, you're going to be, one's going to be outshined by the other.
Yeah. Graviton Lance's Catalyst didn't help the weapon enough. So they changed it from Hidden Hand, which just increased the aim assist, to granting Vorpal and Turnabout.
Oh.
Is
Wow. Okay, I'm going to start using that weapon.
Graviton meta? What is Turnabout?
Considering the changes to flinch and how stable that gun was to begin with, if it gets Vorpal, that's perfect for PvP.
Man, I can't remember what Turnabout even does. Do you know what it does off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head.
Dang it. Turnabout. Using this weapon to break the shield of a combatant or a guardian using their super will grant you an overshield.
Yep.
Okay, so having both Vorpal and Turnabout will actually be pretty effective against Guardians now, too.
EVP?
Because Vorpal does more damage to enemies or to targets in their super, and now you can also get an overshield by doing so. Dude, Graviton Forfeit was, whenever this game first came out, Destiny 2 first launched, back in 2017 or whatever, Graviton Lance was my favorite exotic to use. I loved it, and I'm excited about this.
I'd say we're coming up on 2 hours here, so that's...
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. All right, Grand Overture. Reduce time between bursts when in missile mode. Holding the trigger now will fire all missiles in a continuous burst. Tapping will fire 5-round burst. Cold Heart. Here we go. Arc damage type update. Sustained damage creates an ionic trace, and collecting an ionic trace grants energy to all your abilities. Is this the same as the Warlock thing?
Yes.
Okay. Increase grace time before the damage ramp clears from 0.113 seconds to 1 second. Prometheus Lens. Yes. Solar damage type updated. Sustained damage applies a more useful burn to targets. Cool.
Also good.
Wave Splitter power level no longer cycles randomly. The default damage output is the same as the old middle tier. Yeah, for real.
Good.
Picking up an orb now grants 10 seconds of maximum power and caps at 20 seconds, up from 5 to 10. Now suppresses targets while granted this mode.
That's awesome.
Awesome. I wish that was. I wish we had that now. Honestly.
Really, yeah.
Osteostrigus projectile somehow shipped rotated at 90 degrees. Corrected the rotation on the projectile. Reduced damage fall. Lord of Wolves is a weird shotgun. We reduced the damage fall off start and end by 25%. Okay. Perks. Snapshot sights increase ADS animation speed scaler from 0.5 seconds to 0.75 for special ammo weapons. Primary ammo weapons are unchanged. Opening shot felt mandatory on shotguns forever.
Yep.
Remove damage fall off scaler. Increase range stat bonus from 20 to 25. Other stats from this perk, are unchanged. Full choke has been a go-to magazine perk forever. Increase spread angle scaler from 0.95 to 0.9625. Narrows the spread a little less. Smooth bore felt like an awkward magazine perk. Reduced the spread angle scale from 1.1 to 1.075. Widens the spread a little less. Desperado is a strong perk in its current form. Increase the recovery scaler from 0.415 to 0.7. Doesn't fire as fast when the perk is active. Reduce duration from 7 to 6 seconds. And remove the PvP damage penalty.
I can get behind that.
Air Assault was shelved a long time ago, but adding the Airborne effectiveness stat gives us the opportunity to turn it into a perk that actually does what it says on the description. With this change, Airborne gunplay while wounded will be much more effective. Rebuilt now grants up to plus 60 Airborne effectiveness stat when wounded. Same trigger conditions as Eye of the Storm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Mulligan was never quite strong enough to warrant a pick previously, so increase the chance to return ammo on miss from 20% to 35% on primary weapons, unchanged on special and heavies.
See, I honestly really liked Mulligan on LMGs because when you're just doing Daka down the hallway, this was nice to get some of that back, especially if you're laying down suppressive fire.
Yeah. Yep.
But
Compulsive Reloader shipped a little weak, so increased reload stat buff from plus 40 to plus 50, added a 0.95 reload animation scaler. Interesting.
That's nice.
Adagio was allowing for one hit body shot kills with slug shotguns. Yes. Reduced the damage bonus for shotguns from 30% to 20. Mods. Icarus Grip will now grant Airborne effectiveness stat instead of its previous Airborne accuracy penalty. Removed Airborne accuracy scaler now grants plus 15 AE stat. Add Depth now grants plus 15 AE and plus 5 handling. So, as of right now, it increases the thing. It also range. It increases range too. So they're changing that to handling. That's fine. So then they talk about the weapons that are leaving the loot pool. Next season in Iron Banner, you'll have Occluded Finality and Finite Impact are going away. Nightfall's the Comedian and the Palindrome. Trials, Sheer is a messenger.
Comedian just came into our loot pool last season.
Season 15, yeah. And it's the same. The following season, Hothead's going away too. So,
which is crazy.
these weapons are going away, mind you. They're going away so that they can come back later with different
Stronger.
perks and stuff. Yeah.
More beefier than ever with different spiky hair.
Yeah. Season 18, Iron Banner, Peace Bond, and Arch and Thunder, Nightfall's Plug 1, and Hothead, Trials, Eye of Soul, and Summoner. So, there you go. Yeah.
Eye of Soul.
Yeah, so right now they're talking about our hot fix for next week, which is huge. Axion bolts cooldowns are going from 91 seconds to 152 seconds.
Good.
Thank God.
Everyone's been making it miserable.
Yes. Titan Barricade's base cooldown with the Bastion Void aspect is equipped is now 82 seconds, up from 53. Offensive Bulwark now provides 60% less bonus grenade energy. Whisper of Change now provides 15 bonus damage resistance against players when near the Stasis Crystal, down from 25. Renewal Grasps. You get outgoing damage penalty applied to player victims, and the Renewal Grasp is 50 down to 20. Reduced from 50 to 20. Yes. Unchanged in PvP.
All these changes are for PvP,
yes.
Which is wonderful.
Next week we are getting Trials Labs Moat Thief. Fundamentally, the original concept of the Invader was the Guardian has taken terror, overpowered, and dangerous. Something new to have to fight. While this is very compelling, we don't believe this is the only compelling Invader fantasy. We believe that the sneaky Moat Thief is worth exploring too. Normal moat drain from having 2 blockers is disabled. Instead, every second the Invader is invading, 1 moat drains from the bank.
Which can be devastating, especially if they're trying to hide from you.
We'll see what happens.
Just their presence alone. It'll be interesting. I personally enjoyed the other one better.
I did too.
I will play Gambit to see what this is.
And that's pretty much it.
Yep.
He's got this long spiel about going on vacation and stuff, and telling us that Capture Zone is coming for Trials this week, which we should already know if you've played it.
Right. What's 3 wins?
3. It's the Sniper this week.
Let me know when it's the Scout Rifle again, because I want that.
There is a weekly challenge for winning 20 rounds of Trials. It gives you Aishas.
I'm gonna go in there now.
So,
anyways, so thank you for watching. Number 10, Legend is pooped because he had to read all of that, mostly because his computer is the one that has all the setup. I'm sitting over here on my tablet reading as he goes. But yeah, this has been fun. 10 podcasts in. This is honestly this is a nice way for us to keep in touch with everything.
Seriously,
as much as we play together, we play separately.
Mm-hmm.
Our schedules are just very different. He works mornings, I work nights. He has 6 kids, I have 1.
So true.
This has been nice for the 2 of us anyway. We are gonna get our Titan in here eventually. He'll come. He'll be here. And honestly, I really when he shows up, I don't want to go over at TWAB. No. I just want to chat with the 3 of us.
Yeah.
Just let it go, because he has so many. He's fun just to hang out and just talk around with. And we'll have some key talking notes and stuff, and maybe we do like a Q&A that week. We get people on our Discord that give us questions like, "Oh, how would you guys do this in a Nightfall? How would you guys do this for a raid?" And the 3 of us can get like our personal opinions on that kind of stuff, and we can bring him in for that.
I like that.
Because he is the one who planned our GMs. He's always planned our GMs for us. I did our raids and other things, and Legend's done our PvP. But our Titan is very motivated by loot, and when it comes to loot, he knows what's going to be meta for himself and what's going to be meta for his team, and we roll with that. And that's always been his shtick.
100%.
So,
yeah, I'm excited for that. I don't think we need to do any recommendations this week. Oh, I do have to ask you. You saw Batman, yes?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And what did you think?
All right, so I liked it, but I have notes.
We'll have to talk about this separately, won't we?
Yeah. So, broad, without ruining or spoiling anything, I liked it. I liked his version of Batman.
I did too.
And the reason I liked his version of Batman, he sold me when they did an interview, and he said, "This is year 1 Batman. He's not cut. He's not super buff. He's learning." The entire movie, he was figuring out the puzzles fast, but didn't know how to act on them, and was reacting to what was going on instead of being ahead of the game. He's on for the next 6 movies. We're going to see an evolution of what happened in the first movie. It's going to be in his prime.
Yeah.
As the movies continue, and he's going to be ahead of the curve. He's going to become the Batman, and I'm very excited for that.
I am too.
One of the big things that last thing with
Oh, you're
this,
good. You're good.
one of my favorite things was back in the day when I was watching Batman the animated series, loved it. Then Batman Beyond came out. And if you ever watched Batman Beyond, Terry McGinnis took over as Batman. But Bruce Wayne stayed behind to be the guy in the chair. There was an episode where they were trying to control Bruce Wayne's mind and get him to do things. And at the end of the episode, like, wait, you never broke. How did you realize they were trying to hypnotize you or they were trying to brainwash you? He was like, oh, the voice in my head kept calling me Bruce. It's like, yeah, and he's like, I don't call myself Bruce. And Terry McGinnis is like, no, just so you know, I'm Batman. He's like, sure, kid. And then walks away. The thing that Robert Pattinson's Batman kept calling himself, he kept calling himself Vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
He does not refer to himself as the Batman. As the series continues, I fully expect for him to make that transformation into like,
Yeah.
I am the Batman. And that's what's so good. I love hearing like Kevin Conroy's voice saying,
Yeah.
I am Batman. Oh, it's so good. I've actually been replaying the Batman Arkham games just because I miss it so much. I cannot wait until my son's old enough to watch that with me. Just watch all the old shows. Oh.
I agree with you because you're right. He refers to himself as the Vengeance or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are so many throughout the movie. You keep seeing the Batman thrown at you everywhere in the form of notes and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see where that leads. I did really like, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the gentleman that played Alfred in this movie. I really liked him. He was awesome.
Very good. Yes. Very good.
And I really I know it looks like there's like an end scene where you kind of get an idea that the Joker's going to be introduced at some point. That's not a spoiler. It's Batman. No. You expect it to happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That trailer is all over YouTube, by the way. You can absolutely go find that anywhere.
That being said, I really, really want them to introduce a non-cheesy version of Freeze.
Yes.
Of course, we had Arnold years ago portraying Freeze, and it was very sad.
The theory is right now they're coming out with a streaming service for HBO Max where it's going to be Arkham, and it's going to be following all of the different villains, and they're going to be setting up their individual backstories.
Yes.
One of the greatest comic books for Batman ever put to paper was called The Long Halloween. I really hope they adapt that to movie because it showcased all of Batman's best rogues gallery, and that's what I want to see.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, we're an hour and 42 minutes, so we're going to we're gonna
cut it here. I'm gonna get my wife some dinner.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh man, this twab. I'm Xcalion. That's Sam. We love you guys. Thank y'all, and we'll see y'all later.
Peace.